Make money, money. Take money, money. Make money, money. Take money.
I'm King Kong, this my theme song.
Welcome back to the Follow D Money podcast. This week's guest is important to the podcast itself because when I decided to start this podcast, my engineer for my podcast, John Overton, approached me about a studio in Broad Ripple that he had been interning at, and I had to come and look at this studio called the Round Table Recording Company, and I got to meet the owners, and today I'm sitting with one of the owners, Travis Kold Kut Moore.
Yes, sir.
And I'm very pleased to have you here. And I really just want to say thank you. I say thank you all the time. I know you know that I thank you all the time.
For sure.
For allowing me to do this here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel special. I don't feel any different than anybody else, but it's always a warm feeling when I'm here, and I appreciate that. So I want to, again, thank you.
No,
Cheers.
You're welcome. Cheers.
Yes, it's long overdue to have you on.
No, thanks for having me.
I've been saying it since season 1 that I've wanted you on, and I think it's appropriate now to have you on after 2 live events, 24 episodes, 2 seasons. And you guys have a lot going on, and we're going to get into all that, but welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And, it's great that this thing is really, got rolling, like you said, with all the episodes we've done and worked out all the kinks from episode 1 and, you know what I mean? So I'm excited to be here. And I think, like you said, it's perfect time to come in and talk to you.
Yeah.
But you've had a lot of amazing guests. And,
I have.
It's been a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. I mean, to have you here, my guests, I always ask to come on. It's people who I find very interesting, or people that I know that I can have a good conversation with, and I like their story. Mm-hmm. And your story is special. And what I want to ask you first is, where do you come from? Like, what was your upbringing? Yeah,
so I'm originally from Marion, Indiana, which is, if you've heard of like Zach Randolph or, but so I actually didn't go to Marion High School. I went to a small farm school called Oak Hill.
Okay.
And, so it's weird, it's like I grew up in the country and, just always had a knack for music as far as just like a listener. And, I remember growing up listening to, like Boys to Men and just like all kinds of, just different records were really kind of catching me at an early age.
Yep.
And then, I used to like to dance and, I played a lot of sports growing up, basketball and football. And then my brother always makes fun of me for this, but I really at one point in time was like, I'm not going to make the NBA. I'm not going to play in the NFL.
At what point did you know that you weren't?
I mean, just really like, I went to a really small school and I wasn't overly athletic, but
your dream got cut short.
I won the Heart and Hustle Award so many times. I got that ribbon. I was, I throw my body anywhere, and I still do. I play men's basketball league.
Okay.
But anyway, I just decided like as a young kid, you're like, what are you going to do with your life? And music was just something I was like, I totally want to do this, but how? And I just decided like really it was my senior year in high school that I quit all sports, and how sports are really political, in high school age and stuff. And I just decided I wasn't going to do any sports, and I started DJing. And I was already kind of my senior year in high school. I was already starting to like make beats or just get into that. And I grew up, and it's weird, to say, but like I grew up on MTV, BET, Music Choice, like all those channels, and just like all that music, it just kind of came to me and like kind of pulled me in. And So I started.
So you were just an MTV kid. Like, were your parents musical people?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Okay.
And really, no one in my family was. And I just grew up watching that, and was, this was the '90s. This was the height of P Diddy, Notorious B.I.G., Mace, all of those, and those artists. And I was just, weirdly enough, white boy from the country, just really inspired by that stuff.
Okay.
And so the first thing I did, I started DJing, and before I started DJing, I actually bought some turntables, but I had never seen them in real life until I ordered them.
Wow.
And they came. I've never touched them. I never saw them.
Wow.
And I remember getting them and then learning how to scratch. And
so you just taught yourself how to scratch?
Yeah, just hooked them up in my room. And, I was, kind of a, like a technical kid to where, like, I got a PA and had them in my room, and then I had a fog machine in my room. I burnt holes in the carpet.
Full shows in your room.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And so started just doing that stuff, and then the small school started hiring me to do like the dances.
Okay.
And so I started getting money for that, and I was like, man, this is cool. Like to control a crowd and kind of be the one that dictates what's being played, and that really started like my entrepreneurship kind of spirit that. I was like, there was one dance that got canceled, and I was like, everybody was like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, I'll rent a gym and we'll throw our own party and I'll charge admission.
There you go.
And
Promoter.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I did that and charged admission, and we were, at that time I was bootlegging CDs. Like, I was the only kid that had like a CD burner.
Yep.
So I'd make like, and my DJ names were horrible, by the way.
You weren't Kold Kut?
No, but I'll tell you, that kind of came from that later.
Okay.
First name was DJ T Money.
Oh, hey, welcome to the T Money.
Let's go. Super.
Real basic.
Yeah, real basic, but super cheesy. But yeah, it was DJ T Money. And then, my company name was Chi-Town DJs. I had nothing to do with Chicago. I just thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But, started with that. And then when I did that dance and charged admission, and I remember I walked away like almost $1,000. My parents were like, man, that's, so I was like, this is crazy. This is something here,
Yep.
And so I started doing that more and more, and doing my own, nice little bourbon clank there, right?
Yep.
Doing my own, dances and my own parties, and it kind of started from there.
Yep.
And then that kind of love just started growing to like, okay, I like to control a crowd, but I'm playing other people's music. And then I quickly learned like, okay, I'm tired of playing this song, or I'm tired of playing that song. I want to make my own music. And that's kind of like how it started. And then, how that next step where I felt like I wanted to start creating my own.
And then you decided, how did you go into that? Like, when somebody says I want to create my own music because I'm getting tired of what I'm hearing all the time, that's an artist at that point.
Yeah, it just, again, like there was, in my school, I knew one kid that rapped. It's not like it is today. And I hate to be like that, older like hip hop head guy that's like, oh, I don't like any of the new stuff today, or But today everybody can make beats. Like everybody, like I know. I mean, there's thousands of people, and like kids can make beats on iPads and phones, but it wasn't like that.
Right.
And so the first thing I did, and this is weird because I eventually quickly got into hardware pieces, but the very first thing I did, I remember I bought it at this is when GameStop first opened. This is late 90s, probably 2000. I bought this program called Hip Hop EJ.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like this drag and drop where you had like loops, so you'd have just like the drums, and you'd have the melody, and then you can drag and drop and create like your own beats, right? And so I started doing that in 2000, and there was one kid that rapped in my school, and I was like, hey, you want to rap over these? And and that's where it started, really.
Right. And he was the only rapper, so you had to grab him.
He was the only rapper.
And you don't rap?
Yes, I did later. With him.
Okay.
And so we started that in 2000, and then we became really good friends. And then we eventually, when I graduated in 2002 in high school, I went to Full Sail University in Orlando. I convinced him to go with, and so that's when we really started doing it. Like, obviously, I was learning, the full education.
Yep.
But also, we were doing like a mixtape out of our apartment.
Yep.
And that first mixtape came out in 2004.
Okay.
So yeah, so he was the main rapper, and then I would spit a few verses. Here and there.
Yeah. So you went to this college in Florida
Mm-hmm.
to study music.
Yeah, so I went for recording arts. So they have, it's huge now, and it was big then, but it is the biggest audio school out there.
Right.
But at the time they had recording arts, and they had what's called show production, which is like being like a roadie and going on doing like live stuff. They had graphic design, they had game design, and then film.
Okay.
So yeah, so I went and graduated with a recording arts degree.
Yep.
But yeah, I convinced him to go with, and we met a lot of people there, and we were doing, I remember this because like I wasn't really cultured at the time. Again, goofy white boy from the country.
Yeah.
And from a really small school.
Yep.
And then I go, to Full Sail, which just like every walk of life, just
Mm-hmm.
a lot of things. And I make beats, but I'm really shy about it because I hadn't really, this was the only rapper, right, that I had worked with.
Right.
But like, so I remember,
not just the only rapper you worked with, the only rapper you could work with.
for sure.
Yeah, so he basically was thrown to you, and that's who you had to work around.
Yeah. And we worked together, and then I remember this time at Full Sail, and I remember this memory very vividly. There was a McDonald's that was really close to campus, and we were paired up in like a group, and there's a bunch of guys in my class, and I remember I was thinking, how can I tell them, not sounding like really cheesy, like, hey, I make beats, and like, do you rap? Like, because
You're trying to figure out how
I would like for you to rap on my music. My name's Travis. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know.
You didn't know how to approach
No,
them.
like I didn't have that.
Black kids.
Yeah.
You didn't know how to approach them.
Just like I didn't. It wasn't like I was, like afraid to.
You weren't nervous, but you just didn't have.
I didn't know how. I didn't know.
You didn't have the social skills to do it.
For
probably.
sure. Like I didn't know like how how to say it and like it makes sense, or like for them to like take me serious because I was serious. Like.
But it had to happen though, right?
For sure. Yeah, that was the and that's what I love about my experience at Full Sail is being there. I was cultured right away, like and so then after that, everybody was calling me to record at Full Sail.
Okay.
And there's this guy that many years later we've made so many records together, and he's jumped on John Overton's records. This guy named Kaijuan, and he's from Philly.
Yep.
And real thick kind of Philly accent, and I remember he would call me, and again, I wasn't very cultured, so he would call me and say, I'll try to do my best impressions. He's like, "Yo, Trav, you finna to record, son?" I'm thinking, okay, so does that mean he wants to come over to my house and he wants to record some rap music? Yes, I do want to record you, Kaijuan. You know what I mean? So that really, that was, I guess, like a very necessary thing to happen for me to be in, in this genre of music and to be respected. And I think that was, because this was early 2000s, and I feel like, and a lot of that was probably just built in my own head. Like, I wanted to get this experience under my belt. I wanted to, make music with so many different types of people, and so that really, really helped, kind of,
to foster that
for sure
the relationship.
Yeah.
So from college, what would you say was your first big opportunity in the music industry?
Like after college,
or did you get it in college?
Yeah, I mean, I met, we were talking about Rap City earlier, but I met so many different people. There was this guy named Chinaman, and he was on, he had got signed before Full Sail, and then I remember he showed me like the Rap City episode, and he was super dope.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, got to work with a lot of those guys that now that I look back, we were all so green in the industry, and we were just wanting to, like, you know, make things happen.
Yep.
And we were just collabing, and like that was the art of collaboration, is just like sitting there and just kind of going off the dome, or, you know, like just, you know, I'd play them the tracks and they would just go in and like makeshift, you know, studio, my closet,
Yep.
and just rap. And so I think those, you know, making that very first record is what kind of showed me and proved that, like, hey, I could actually do this
For a living.
for, you know, for a living. But obviously, you know, like anytime you go to school for something, you know that there's a road like after,
Right.
you know, and especially in the music business. And one thing they told us so many times is like, it takes time, you know, everybody wants to be in this industry. It's very cutthroat, you know, and it was way more cutthroat then than I feel like it is now.
I think so too.
A lot of people are more chill now, but like, you know, after Full Sail, you know, for me to try to get internships and things like that, it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. Like once I left, you know, and came back home, that's when it really started.
Okay.
Like, you know, yeah, I had great experiences there, but when I came back home to Indiana, I actually got married like right when I got back
Okay.
at age 21.
Oh wow.
And then it was to start my journey of, you know, my career and providing for my wife.
Yep.
And, you know, so that whole thing.
What did you do? What was your first gig?
So the first thing I did was, it's really crazy. I don't know what I was thinking, but I met a guy at Full Sail, and we were friends, and he lived in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and he lived in like a suburb of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, his thing was like,
BMF.
no, yeah, Detroit what? But he, you know, his thing was like, hey, you know, come to Michigan and let's open a studio together. Because
Okay.
remember, this has always been my dream.
Right.
We're now sitting in the dream, but it took a long time to get here.
Yep.
And you know, so this is 2005, right
Okay.
here in this, you know, time period. And so I move out there, you know, like newly married,
Mm-hmm.
and he works at Guitar Center.
Yep.
So he gets me on at Guitar Center.
Yep.
And, you know, my wife just gets kind of, you know, random odd jobs, and we're starting our, you know, our life.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm working at Guitar Center, and, you know, the goal is to like open our own studio, but that doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen right away. But I eventually meet some people at Guitar Center that I sold gear to, and they bought, you know, a whole studio's worth, and I was like, hey, we can set this up for you.
Right.
So I actually worked at, you know, the first studio for a paying gig in Detroit, Michigan, really close to 8 Mile. It was in actually like Southfield, Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
and a place called Grand Recording is where I started.
Yep.
And yeah, so, you know, that taught me a lot there, as far as like, you know, the very first time of being behind the boards and it's being like a real thing. I was very green and very shy again, you know, just to navigate, you know, how to do this.
Right. But you knew how to do it from school though, right?
I did, but
Yep.
you know, school, especially there, was very scenario based,
Okay.
right? It was like, okay, so if you're in a session, you know, these things may happen, and you're going to have to do this and do that. But then this is the first time it's like somebody's walking into the room, and like, I'm the guy that's like hooking everything up. I'm the guy that's
Right.
like, you know, recording him. I'm the guy that's mixing him,
Right.
you know, and I'm the guy, and I got to be the guy. I got to be ready. And it took really a few years before I was comfortable being that.
Right. Okay. After Detroit, you worked at many other studios, right?
In Detroit, I worked at like 3 or 4.
Okay.
And,
And that's how you made your living in a studio.
well, at that time, Guitar Center.
Yep. Good start.
And then, you know, I'm not afraid to admit it. I actually got fired at Guitar Center. And I remember the guy, the manager, told me, he said, you know, it takes more than to know how to run Pro Tools than to work here.
Oh,
And he fired me.
dang.
So, this is very humble beginnings, again, newly married. So I go with a recording arts degree and I go to Radio Shack.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I get a job at Radio Shack. And then I'm doing sessions like at night, or I'm doing sessions with, rappers. Rappers came to my house. I remember this is stuff that I would never do today, but I'd have guys come to my house, and I remember, just people I'd meet at Guitar Center or whatever.
Yep.
And again, we're in a suburb of Detroit. And at that time in 2005, it was pretty crazy.
Right.
There was a guy named Kwame Kilpatrick as the mayor. He might as well have been
I remember
Suge Knight.
I remember Kwame. Yeah.
Now, he's now in prison.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So it was run.
I remember Kwame Kilpatrick.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. But I remember I had guys knocking my door, and and this one time, these two guys came over and they had these huge duffel bags, and I was thinking, and I saw them, and I was like, "What are you bringing these duffel bags in my house for?"
Right.
And I thought for a second, I'm like, "Man, I don't know." Open the duffel bags full of rhymes. Just zipped it just rhymes, like paper, just
really
rhymes.
A
duffel bag full of rhymes.
Jeez.
Seriously.
Okay, dang.
Yeah.
About to record a whole library.
Right. So after Detroit, I was actually looking around for any opportunity, because I didn't want to be there. I knew long term I wasn't going to be there.
Yep.
And so I got an opportunity in Louisville at a studio called Downtown Recording.
Yep.
And so I'm there, and again, we talked about it being very cutthroat. This guy was like, "Okay, go get me my coffee, and I want it this way.
Dang.
And then if you don't do it right, then I'm going to send you back, and you're going to get it again until you get it right." And I'm thinking, fuck, I don't drink coffee. I don't know anything about coffee.
Right.
And that's how the older engineers that were making a living in the 90s, that was that mentality.
Wow.
It was like, you're an intern, you're a piss-on, you're a runner, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I need you to do this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you thank you.
Yeah.
You want to learn, son, right?
Right.
That's how it was. So
they were doing you a favor.
for sure.
Yeah.
And my wife was still in Detroit. I drove all the way to Louisville, and then
Damn.
yeah, so I'm trying to get this opportunity, and I remember I was there for 2 days, and I was taking out the trash, and my phone rang, and it was this studio here in town called The Lodge.
Yep.
Which is the studio that I wanted to go to.
Okay.
And they called me as I'm there interning, saying, "Hey, would you like to come in and for an interview for the new internship?"
Yep.
I'm like, "Yeah."
Hell yeah.
So I left there the next day,
Mm-hmm.
came back to Indy, and did the interview and got the internship at the Lodge. And this was 2006.
Okay. That's a lot in 1 year.
Yeah, it was a lot.
That's a ton.
I mean, it's just the grind of trying to make it. I wasn't.
You weren't where you wanted to be.
No.
And so you knew you had to do shit to do it.
And I knew it was early, but it was one of those things. It's like you have the drive of I want to make it. I'm going to make it, but how? You know what I mean? How can I make this happen? I would think about it all the time. I'd call, I would email, I would just lead after lead after lead to try to make it happen.
Yep. I feel like that mentality is lost these days, because a lot of people want things handed to them. A lot of people want things to fall in their lap without working and without grinding and putting in the work.
100%.
Like this story already is a testament to where you are right now.
Yeah.
What I want to know is, where did the idea, how did you get here?
Yeah. So we've talked about the beginnings in quite detail, and we'll try to, fast forward a little bit to get to this point. But once I was at the Lodge, I was finally where I wanted to be as far as location, because I'm from Indiana. I felt at home here, and I knew that, Marion was never going to provide as to what I needed. So I knew I wasn't going to ever go back to Marion.
Yep.
So I knew I'd probably end up in Indianapolis.
Yep.
My first thought was, okay, get an opportunity in Indianapolis, build a name for yourself, take over that kind of small music community, and then literally expand from there. So being in Indy, I was like, okay, I'm gonna. Once I met everybody at the lodge, they didn't really have a hip hop guy, you know, and Corey was there, Corey Miller, which now is our chief engineer here at Roundtable, and we've been friends since then.
Yep.
But you know, he was there, and I learned a lot from him, and he did hip hop, but it wasn't anything that like he loved to do.
Right.
But it's what I did.
Right.
So I knew that they need like a, you know, an in-house, like, you know, in-house producer.
Yep.
And so, you know, these are the days of MySpace,
Okay.
and I was selling beats on MySpace and having people come to the studio, pay me for the beats, and then I was recording them. I was recording them as an intern.
Okay.
And of course, the studio saw that and was like, cha-ching, they don't have to pay me as an intern. Let's just give him all kinds of sessions,
Dang.
all kinds of sessions.
Yeah.
And I was bringing in tons of sessions myself as an intern because I
Yep.
knew how to do it because I was already getting paid, although it wasn't great, in Detroit. You know, I had already done like paid sessions.
You're right. Right.
And then when I went to the lodge, it was all free. You know, I was
Damn.
internship for 3 months, and you know, I was doing, no exaggeration, at times, like 80 hours a week. You know, doing sessions and living there. You know,
Wow.
and we weren't even living here yet. My wife finally moved from Detroit, and then I was staying, like sleeping on a couch at her brother's house.
Yeah.
You know, and just trying to make this thing happen.
Damn.
But so I was there till about 2007, and then I got introduced from Corey to another guy at this studio called Azimuth Recording, and I was at Azimuth for 13 years.
Okay.
And so Azimuth is you know, I got a lot of love for Azimuth, and that was really where I you know, I kind of really came into my own there.
Yep.
And so I really started, you know, just working with everybody, and you know, hey, I'm here. This is what I do for a living. I'd like to do your production. I'd like to do your album. I'd like to mix it. I'd like to make the beats.
At this time, you're still doing like generally hip hop.
Yeah, mainly hip hop.
Yep.
R&B a little bit, rap. But yeah, so I built up my own clientele I had from the lodge, and I brought it over to Azimuth.
Yep.
And you know, I started there with just like some core clients, and then just kind of kept going from there. And you know, it was.
Is it intimidating to be a white boy in a black dominated genre like that, especially like in this city? I mean, I don't see. I mean, like, it's got to be intimidating.
It was at first.
Yeah.
I remember taking it back to a time at Detroit. This was one that was very kind of pivotal for me. Is I had got invited to a studio, and this was in a not great part of town in Detroit at night, and I was kind of afraid to go there by myself, so I dragged my wife with me, and we pulled.
You took your security
for sure. We pulled up to the studio, and she's sitting there, and the guy's like, he's like, "Hey, you gonna come up?" I said, "Yeah." She's just gonna sit in the car. He's like, "No, she can't sit in the car."
Damn.
I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So we both go up, and there's like this little common area before you go into like the control room. So she sits in the common area. I go in, and it's just me, only white guy there, and probably like 15 dudes, you know, kind of looking at me like, what the fuck is this dude doing here? And I'm like, you know, I knew one guy there.
Yep.
And he's like, you know, hey, we're going to play some of his tracks. So they put it in a CD, you know. It's like, oh, I hope they like this. And as soon as it played, they're like, okay, man. You know, they're like tapping me up, like, okay, boy, you got something, you know.
Yeah.
So that was the first part. And then years later, once I started to get like, you know, kind of credits under my belt, yeah, of course there was people like, you're Travis, or you're Kold Kut, or you're doing the beats.
Right.
Are you sure? You know, and then.
So a lot of people when they don't know who you are, they're surprised to see you?
They were.
Oh, okay.
They were initially.
Yeah.
I feel like now it's such a small, tight-knit community, and I've been doing it here for so many years that most people know either me or of me, you know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, at the beginning, it was like, you're the one doing it. And then my thing was like, I got an ace in my sleeve. just wait till you hear the music.
Yeah.
Because, okay.
Because it don't matter. Yeah.
Like, hey, I did all these records. And once I started to get like plaques on the wall, I did all these records, I'm the one,
Right.
and it just kind of spoke for itself. I let the
Yeah.
music speak for
Yep.
itself.
Yep.
And yeah, so it started like that.
Yeah.
But then it's, then it got to a point, where it was, I think that it was accepted, it was like, hey, this guy loves the music.
Right.
I'm very cultured in hip hop,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that brings me to a question I want to ask you.
Yeah.
What are the 4 elements of hip hop?
The 4 elements of hip hop.
Oh yeah, baby. Let's go.
He said, "Let's go."
Come on now.
Now, when you say elements, you mean like I don't know what you mean by elements.
Okay, one of them is MCing.
Okay, MCing, DJing,
That's another one.
rhyming.
Well, that would be MCing.
That would be MCing, DJing.
What else they used to do?
Oh, dance, b-boying,
B-boying.
and graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
That's all hip hop.
Yeah, so those are the 4 elements.
That's what makes the culture.
Yes. And I studied that. Like I studied
Yeah.
hip hop because it wasn't, to me, it was just something that was very interesting to me, like the culture of hip hop, how it started, and I even went to New York and did a hip hop tour with Grandmaster Caz
Wow.
of the Furious Five and Kold Kut.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And he was the tour guide. And I remember I took my dad on the tour, and we're sitting in this bus, and he's asking all these questions. I'm raising my hand. He's asking, and we go to the birthplace of hip hop, which is
Brooklyn,
the Bronx.
the Bronx.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sedgwick and Cedar.
Okay.
Right. So hip hop, started in 1973.
MC Shan.
MC Shan.
MC
Do you know the
Shan.
first DJ?
That's Kool Hurt.
Cool Hurt.
Yeah.
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 So, when people would kind of test me on those things, I'd be like, bro.
But what you don't understand is I have so much more love that you did that because you were in that space and you took the time to learn that history. A lot of people just are vultures.
Absolutely.
You
And
know
that's,
what I mean? And that's when
yeah,
it
culture
becomes a
vulture for
problem.
sure. Yeah.
That's when it becomes a problem because you inhale hip hop, you feed off hip hop, but you don't know it and you don't appreciate it and you don't fight for it.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like I just watched Dave Chappelle, his last stand-up comedy, and he said white people like he's like gay white people are gay until they have to be white. They can use white when they have the chance. You know what I mean? Like you have if you're representing hip hop, represent hip hop when it's time. You know what I mean? Like just the fact that you knew that, like that's cold, bro.
Well, and I knew it was going to be a big part of my life, and and I owe a lot to hip hop. I mean, that's hip hop is how I've made a living my whole adult life.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, so like knowing about it, understanding, knowing the birthplace, knowing the the culture, and so when like artists come to me and I don't get to do a lot of like real hip hop stuff, like the boom bap, East Coast stuff.
Yep.
But when I do, I love it. You know what I mean? When we're talking like, original like MPC drum machine, like with the SCSI drive with the flop, like 'cause I had an MPC, in Detroit, and I was doing stuff on the drum machines, and so I got a lot of love for that, and that's why it's like hard for doing a lot of the trap stuff today. I'm not a huge fan of it. I've made tons of it. I have to, for what I do, but I've always been a big fan of like boom bap and East Coast and stuff like that. But I don't think I really answered your question. We kind of got off topic, but there were so many things that got me to this moment. But it was, being at the studio I was at, I started to feel complacent. I started to feel like I had a ceiling.
Yeah.
And I don't ever like to feel that way.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys that's like, I want to keep climbing.
Yeah.
And if I plateau, like I'm not happy with that. I want to keep going,
Right.
and I'll set goals.
Yep.
And then once I achieve those, they don't always feel like you think they are, you know, and then I just keep going, you know, it's like, okay, I got that.
Yep.
What's next?
Yep.
And so that's kind of how Roundtable started in kind of the back of my mind. I always wanted my own place.
Okay.
And I wasn't happy where I was at. I wasn't happy how clients were treated. I wasn't happy how the place was presented. It wasn't me.
Yep.
It wasn't who I am. It wasn't, you know, how I wanted to represent Indianapolis or Naptown. Like, you know, we have so much talent here.
You do.
And I really wanted to showcase that
Yep.
in a way that's not like a transaction based. Like, okay, I got a studio, pay me studio time, and then I don't really give a shit what your music sounds like, and then out the door you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's not who I am,
Yeah.
and that's not why I got into it.
Yeah.
You know, like I
like,
love
like you take music, like people just some I would say that some studios probably just artists want to come in and record music. They take the money, let them record, and they're out.
Yeah, they don't
Record some shit.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care. Now, trust me, I have done every different type of session.
I'm sure you've done stuff that you don't like.
Oh my gosh, I've done stuff where I've thought like, man, I could bang my head against a wall and it would probably feel better. But I always stay grounded in the fact that like the last job I had before music, I was unloading a semi truck at Kohl's for $7.25 an hour.
Wow.
While I was at the lodge, you know, interning.
Yep.
And I think I could be back to that.
Yeah.
You know, when I you know, record a shitty session, or you know, it's just something that's not good, or you know, that's one thing I learned real quick. Like, I take my, you know, early on, I had to take my personal taste out of it.
Yep.
Like, it doesn't matter if I like it.
Yeah.
Music is very subjective. It's an art form. It's like, you know, many people can like something and you hate it.
Yep.
So I would always find like something in it I could attach myself to make better. So I would, early on, I would even kind of go into mentor mode because, you know, with hip hop, I felt like I knew so much, and I felt like a lot of times, like I could go in there and rap it for them.
Okay.
Like I used to actually do overdubs on records.
Okay.
I may even done some on JOs. I know I did on, maybe I didn't, but I did a lot on, you know, early records because, you know, I would teach them like, okay, we got to have the main track, and then a dub and an overdub,
Yep.
you know, and an ad lib. What's an ad lib? Well, an ad lib is when you like do, yeah, yo, check, what, you know, like all these little things in between. And what's an overdub? It's when you hit the rhyming words. You know, you go in and you hit the rhyming words with personality. You know what I mean? So like they kind of underlay the main vocal, and then that's where you get that like dynamic.
Right.
You know, and so I'd go in and kind of, you know, spit those things, but I had to a lot of times just take my personal taste out of it and just help them, you know, mentor them.
Yep.
So
that's what's up. Your partner Tim.
Mm-hmm.
How did you meet him?
So again, you know, we were at the other studio I was at, and I co-developed a program there, a education program.
Yep.
And Tim was one of our students.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
Tim was in Detroit. I didn't obviously know him when I was there.
Yep.
And his wife had relocated here. She got a job here, and so he became one of the students there. And you know, and he's at the time, you know, I think late 40s. You know, so we had students of, just like we do now, of all different walks of life and different ages and things like that.
Yep.
But he came there and, you know, and really, you know, he was a great student, and I knew he wanted to.
So what made him want to do that at that point in his life?
Well, he was very successful in manufacturing, and he was like a plant manager at this company called Lear, and then he owned his own business. He owned 2 H&R blocks.
Okay.
And very successful, and corporate bought those and cashed them out before they came, you know, to Indy. But back in the day, he was the front man of a band.
What?
Yeah, ask Tim about his mullet pictures and his
I can't
and
wait.
his leather pants.
I can't wait.
Yeah, so he was the front man of a band, and he just always wanted to like kind of go back to that and wanted to get back into music, and he felt like, you know,
I tell you what, man. Like
could
when
do
it
that.
comes to music, like it can change people. It
Oh, yeah.
motivates people. It's like to me, music is very important in my life. And I'm not an artist. I don't record music. I don't rap. I don't sing. But I love music.
I'd love to hear you rap. Try to rap.
Bruh, nah.
Should do a freestyle battle right now.
You- we can have an impromptu freestyle.
Oh man, now that we get a little off topic there.
Yeah. So how did you and Tim decide to do this?
Yeah. So again, that dream was always alive, and you know, when I met Corey, and just to kind of go back, when I met Corey in 2006, and then we were friends. When I was at the lodge, and we were friends for forever. We would always, he was never happy there, and he always wanted to leave, but he didn't necessarily know how. And then I got to a point where I wasn't happy where I was at, and so we would work on projects together, and eventually I built a home studio that kind of was like my transition, and we would just dream about it. We'd just be like, man, we should have our own place, and this is what we would do different, and we would write all the wrongs of like the studios we were in, all the things that we didn't agree with, and we would be the owners, and we would be the ones that would call the shots, and we would be able to treat the clients how we want to. And Tim came in and kind of bought into that too, and we became friends. And there was this record, like a pivotal moment, and he always tells this story, but he does it better. But I was working on getting a lot of clients from Nashville. And there was this trip that I had planned, and I told Tim and Corey, I said, look, I will go to Nashville. I have a few meetings. They may all be busts, but we're going to go and have fun. I don't know what's going to happen, but this is how it is. I got some meetings set up. They may fall through. I don't know. But I'm going down here because I want to work with these people, and I have to go to them. Right? So we go down to Nashville. We go to like the first studio, meet the first guy, which I had a good relationship with him. We started kind of working on some stuff. And then he was the one that was going to introduce me to this other guy. And at the time, this other guy had a big show on A&E, and he was really big in the genre he was at, and he was on Warner Brothers and Warner Nashville. So he was signed to a major label. So he makes the introduction, which I had already met him once years ago at Asmith. And so we kind of chop it up a little bit. And, I'm playing him some beats. And then I have this other meeting with this artist named Jelly Roll, which shout out to Jelly Roll because Jelly's super dope, and he's dropped a new album that's amazing. But, I meet with Jelly, and I play him some tracks, and, we just kind of go all over Nashville. And so all the meetings, every meeting that I wanted, it all happened. And I think, Tim especially, but and Corey, we went to all these different studios, and we kind of had that bond, like, hey, what happened if we could bring all these people to Indy and we have our own place, And so that's where the dream started. And then it was about like, how do we make it happen? Because obviously, this stuff costs a lot of money, and it's a big capital investment, and to have a brick and mortar is not an easy task to do. And we knew that that was going to be hard, and we kind of formulated Roundtable Recording Company. Originally, it was a LLC. And we were meeting at my house, and we were meeting at my house for like 4 years.
Wow.
So we would come to my house. I had the home studio. And we would go through all of these things that we could do, and we didn't have the money to do a brick and mortar. So we were like, well, we may have to start out as online, and do like an online education thing. And so, we started doing that. And then, long story short, that ended when we found out that we had to make like a very large investment to really kind of launch this program, and we didn't have the capital to do it. So we dissolved the LLC. Everybody went back to their own stuff. Tim was like, well, I think I'm going to try to get back in manufacturing. I really don't want to do it. And there was like 4 or 5 months that like it was over. The dream was over. Corey was at the lodge. I was at home doing records, and there was one day that I had somebody over at my house, and he was a longtime client, and we're recording and for his daughter, and he's like, "Man, I wish the studio was closer." You know, he lives in Carmel, and I said, "Well, this isn't the end all be all for me. Like, I really want like a commercial facility where, you know, we can do education, we can have multiple, you know, rooms." And he's like, "Really? Tell me more about it." So I started telling him more, and he's like, "I'd be interested in investing." So that's like where it really,
That was the brain trust right there. Like
that's
where
when
it
the
happened.
that's
Yep.
when the dream became the reality, because at that point Tim was out of it. I remember calling him and saying, "Hey, I got an investor." And he's like, and I was like, I'm not going to do this without you." And he's like, "Why don't you just do it yourself?" I was like, "I don't want a 1-room facility.
Right.
I don't want to work by myself. I'm already working by myself at home.
Yep.
It's not fun.
Yep.
I want to be around people. I want to collaborate. Like, okay, yeah, I made good money at home because I had a lot of clientele, but like, I can't have like Snoop Dogg come to my house, you know,
right.
you know, smoking weed as soon as he gets in there, you know, and, you know, I had the pleasure to work with a lot of great, huge artists that I grew up listening to, but it wasn't going to happen in my house.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
I knew I needed and wanted more to expand.
Yep.
And then I finally convinced Tim. We went and had a meeting with the investor, and that's where it started.
That's nice.
That's how we started when we got this building
Dang.
and all that.
That's cool.
I got to pour a little bit more bourbon here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
pour you some bourbon. I want to know because in my own opinion, I think you and Tim are a lot not alike. You guys are not alike.
No, we're not.
And that kind of works for a business agreement. So tell me the difference between you and Tim, like, and how does it work as a partnership?
Yeah. So he's the business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the creative. You know,
Yeah.
he's the you know, his background is business. I know the music business though.
Yeah.
Like, I've been in this business for a long time. I know how to bring clients. I know how to talk to people. I know how to get projects happening. I have that personal.
Yeah.
I've learned that that's like one of my knacks is just, you know, sit and talk to people and relate to them. And like, you know, they're telling me, "Hey, I want to do this project." And when they're doing that, I'm like, I can see it.
Yep.
I can see it from like, you know, starting here to all the way here. And that's always been something that I've been very proud of like taking an artist from nothing.
Yep.
And then building them to being huge and doing records that start from like, "Hey, who is this?" to like, "Oh, we're Billboard top 10. I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done that multiple times, and I've done that in Indiana. And that's been a, you know, kind of a huge, I guess, accomplishment, but also just something that, you know, that I love, and that just keeps me inspired of like, you know, what I ultimately want to do is just to build artists. So anyway, you know, he's the business and I'm the creative guy. So
You're the people person. Tim, like, I love Tim. Like, Tim is great.
Yeah.
I love my relationship that I have with Tim. He's just straight to the point, and
Yep.
and he's just like, I mean, he's business, 100%, and you need that in this business.
Well, he keeps us really centered, and he, you know, I wouldn't do this without him. Like, I didn't want to do it without him.
That's what's up.
And before I met him, you know, Corey and I were talking about owning our own place. I love Corey, but him and I are both on the same wavelength as creative. We wouldn't know what the hell we were doing with a business.
Yeah.
And, you know, Tim keeps us grounded. Tim thinks about things that you know, that I don't think about. He's taught me a lot about owning a business. And that's been a big transition for me, is like, you know, I've always been the one that's like, you know, clients come in and I'm like, you know, "What's up? We're going to do the record, and we're going to do this and that." But I now have to think about it as a business as well.
Yep,
And like,
yep.
you know, all the different freelance guys we have with, you know, working for us, and, you know, our education program, you know, and mentoring students and answering their questions, and,
Yep.
you know, all of those things on top of, you know, making sure that our business is doing what we want. We're very brand conscious and
Yep.
wanting to build the brand, you
Yep.
know. Those are things that, like building the brand, things like, I feel like I'm really strong on that, but Tim is great support on like what we ultimately want to do, what we want to achieve. It's not just like recording like artists. It's not just the education.
Yeah.
It's building this place to be the hub. And, I know that may sound like cheesy and everybody wants that, but like, I've said this so many times, is like Indy has so many talented people and so many talented artists, but they don't ever get the recognition or the love, especially from Indianapolis. Like
Right.
they don't get love from their own city,
Right.
and they don't get love from the people that could, pull some strings to get them to the next level.
Yeah.
And I've worked with artists that we've blew up outside of here, and then Indy's like, oh, hey, let's get you in the newspaper, and now we want to show love. And it's
Right.
like, we want to be this place. It's like, look, I don't care if you're rough around the edges. I don't care if you don't have it all put together. We're going to help you do that.
Yeah.
And we're going to help develop your records. We're going to help develop you as an artist. We're going to help like put out your records to where you understand like distribution, you understand a rollout, you understand putting out music in 2021. It's way different.
Yeah.
CDs are gone.
Yeah.
It's the digital era. It's like, I'm 38 years old and I'm having to learn TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about TikTok.
Yeah.
I don't really want to be on TikTok, but I'm also understanding that that's how artists are breaking right now.
Right.
Like that's how records are like going.
Yep.
And so I'm encouraging all of my artists, do you have a TikTok? I don't want a TikTok. You need a TikTok, like, and just helping and help pushing them,
Yeah.
and again, it's not a transaction based. Yes, they do pay for studio time. Yes, they do pay me to produce their records.
Yep.
Yes, I make back in on the records, but I'm invested in the records. Like I want those records to be huge.
They got your name on it.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a calling card for me, but it's also, when I see anybody with like talent, I want to, like, I see it early,
Yeah.
and then I want to push it all the way. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
And I feel like I can see the beginning and understand the end. And a lot of people can't see that, especially when even just an artist, but even like with a project, they, if they're recording the vocals, they can't see what it's ultimately going to sound like, but I can.
Right.
Like I know what we need to do to get it to ultimately be this huge record.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. In your time doing music, who was the best artist, or what was your dream artist that you actually got to work with?
Yeah. No, this is.
I think I know the answer.
You do know the answer.
I know the answer.
I think I told you.
I've seen it on the wall too.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bourbon break. Oh. And that was a little spicy. So yeah, my favorite.
Wait, but before you say that,
Mhm.
can you just tell us some people that you've worked with?
Yeah. Really got to work with a lot of the people that I grew up listening to,
Good.
which is really badass.
Yeah, that's dope.
One of the first big ones was Snoop.
Yeah.
And the funny story about Snoop is I remember we were debating before he got there, and he's 4 hours late, by the way. But it's Snoop. You're like, I don't care. Just show
Right.
just show up, please.
Just come. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just be there.
And he walks in and he doesn't ask us. We were debating if we were going to allow him to smoke weed in the building.
Yeah.
And he walks in the door with it lit already, and he doesn't ask us if he can smoke it. He asks for an ashtray. You know what I mean? Literally just walks in there. So that was a fun experience. And then got to work with this guy that I really liked. A guy named Mike Posner.
Mike Posner. Yeah.
Yep. And he's super dope. Singer-songwriter,
Yeah.
a great writer. At the time I worked with him, he played me all the stuff on his laptop, and I did a song with him and Big Sean.
Okay.
It was called Top of the World, but he was doing a bunch of stuff for Justin Bieber's Believe record,
Okay.
because he wrote the song called Boyfriend, and he wrote.
Hey, let me tell you something. Guilty pleasure.
You got Bieber fever.
I got Bieber fever, bro. Like, I'm a huge Bieber fan.
Now he's super
a huge Bieber
No, he's
fan.
super dope. I mean, I liked him, especially like when Luda jumped on that song, because like Luda would never put out like great albums, but his
Man.
features he would murder.
I thought Luda was dope.
No, I always
I think
I
Luda's
always
dope.
loved
Yeah,
Luda,
yeah,
like
yeah.
seriously. But yeah, so he'd play me the stuff on the iPad, on his MacBook or whatever,
Yep.
on his laptop, and he's playing me all these records. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like all of these records. He's like, yeah, I wrote this one for that. I wrote this for Maroon 5.
Damn.
And then after that happened, then all these records come out, and I'm like, these are fucking massive records.
Yep.
So yeah, so Mike Posner was cool. Trying to think of all the different ones. I've worked with Young Buck, Pretty Ricky, Nappy Roots.
You had Avant out there.
Yeah, Avant. Well, Avant actually worked with Chris Kelly, which R.I.P. to Chris Kelly, but he produced a lot of those things. I was actually in high school when Avant did a lot of those records, and Chris
Okay.
Kelly actually produced those, which he was
okay.
one of my mentors.
Oh yeah.
And he
Yep.
worked here at a round table before he died really quick of cancer.
Wow.
But yeah, so that he did Avant, but man, there's so many I'm missing, but I'll go into
The one.
I'll go into my favorite. And this was my favorite even as a kid. I remember like the first time I got my license, and you know, I had this gold Jeep. You know, my dad worked for Chrysler, and we were able to get like really cool vehicles, and I had this gold Jeep, and I had gold rims, and it was all gold, and I thought I was the coolest thing. And this record came out, and it was DMX.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, just as a kid, it was bumping that as loud as it would go. And at the time I worked at Arby's, and you know, was pulling up to my shift and was rocking DMX, you know. And then so years later, when I found out that he was going to come to the studio, I was extremely excited, and I wasn't really nervous. And after, you know, I'd worked with a decent amount of people, I didn't really get nervous anymore. It was kind of like, you know, my game face, like,
Yep.
I'm making sure everything's perfect, you know, before they walk in the studio.
Yep.
Signal flow, everything's down, headphones down. I'm checking the mic myself. I'm doing everything. I'm checking compression. I'm checking everything. So when he walks in the room, because a lot of times, you know, national acts, when they come in, they're coming after the show or sometimes before the show,
Yeah.
and it's got to be quick.
Yeah.
And like, they don't really mess around with, you know, hey, what's up? And, you know, they literally just go like right in the booth.
Right.
So I prepare for that. And so he comes in, and, you know, and I'm not really starstruck or anything. I'm just like, hey, you know, what's up? I'm Travis. I'm going to be your engineer, you know, extremely excited. And, you know, the first thing he does is like, you know, can we smoke in here? And, I was like, yeah. You know, at that time we allowed, for national acts, we allowed them to smoke weed in the building, but we didn't want cigarettes. And he wanted to smoke cigarettes. And so I was like,
It was like, can you smoke weed,
yeah,
please?
yeah. So he was like, yeah, no, I want to smoke, you know, I want to smoke a cigarette. And I was like, well, can you, I'll set this chair right by the door, the front door. And can you smoke it right there? Well, that lasted for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he was in
You
the control room
just
smoking cigarettes.
Smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. And then I remember I had a runner for the night, and he had the runner go get, he wanted Hennessy and obviously, you know, blunt wrappers, and then canola oil
Oh.
and vegetable oil.
Oh.
Yeah. So my runner goes and gets that. Didn't ask him what that oil was for until he got it, and he starts chugging it, and it's to coat his throat. He literally is chugging
Canola
this
oil.
canola oil and like this vegetable like stuff you put in like pans to fry shit, and he's taking it down. I'm like, oh my gosh.
He's drinking it.
He's drinking it,
Swallowing it.
swallowing it, like
Wow.
like chugging it.
That's fucking wild.
And I go in, and he asked me to, you know, set up the mic, and he wants me to set up the mic, and he wants me to set it up like real low, which is weird to me too. Like
Yeah.
I always go in, you know, the booth or whatever, and get their height and make sure like it's right there. You know,
Yep.
they're going right into the diaphragm, and you know, he comes in there and he's like, no. He's like, I want it down. Like, you know, so I'm like, okay, yeah. So we set it down, and it's like way low. I mean, it's like here, you know, it's like low, and I'm like, that's weird, but okay.
Yeah.
And so we start tracking, and we do 2 songs that night, and the first song we're doing, and he you know, he lays his verse down, and then he comes back in, and as he's laying his verse down, you know, again, this is years after I've been doing it. I've worked with a bunch of, you know, big talent or whatever, so I'm like, my eyes are glued to him tracking.
Yep.
But and I'm trying to watch like his cues as to like when he wants me to like take it again, right? Like, hey, run that back, or like, hey, record it over, or like, I don't like that take. But like, he's speaking in a language that I don't understand, and so like, you know, I'm trying to guess as to like when he wants me to run back, or like when he wants me to keep it, right?
Yep.
And one time I guess wrong.
Oh.
And he lets me have it, and he's like, no, he's like, don't stop it. And I was like, oh no, okay. He's like, because this is where the magic happens. And that actually made the record.
Oh, he said that.
Yeah. And,
wow.
and it made the record too.
Wow.
So the start of the song is, this is where the magic happens. And I'm like, okay. So, you know, we run it back, and we get that, and then he comes out and he wants me to. There's so many stories from this night. I could take the whole time, but he comes back, and he's like, he's like right. He's like pretty much on top of me, like no personal space. This is way before COVID, but he's like right on top of me. He wants me to like place this gunshot. Like, you know, he's like, I want a gunshot here, you know, and so I put it in. I got it in Pro Tools, and you know, you can see it. And he's like, I want it to go like blah blah. And I'm like, okay, so I'm scooting it over. He's like, no, blah blah. I'm like, is that right? You know what I mean? And he's like, yeah. And he plays it. I'm like, oh shit, okay, all right, I got the gunshot placed. That's good. And then we move on. Then we move on to the second song. And at this point, you know, this is deep into the night, and you know, I was completely sober that night, but you know, he was smoking cigarettes, and then, you know, blunts, and then Hennessy, and so he's rapping, and in the middle of a take, he starts freaking out, and I'm like, what is going on? Well, there's this big ant in the booth.
A literal ant?
A literal ant, and it's crawling in the booth. And he's like, no, he's like, stop it. And he's like, oh my gosh. And he takes the ant, and he like sets it on the ledge, and he finishes his verse, and then he comes in and he brings the ant with him, and he sets it on this little desk where he's got like where he was rolling his weed and everything, and the ant's crawling, and then one of the guys there takes a DMX lighter and literally smashes the ant, and we have all this on video, and he's like no, he's like I was gonna give it, and he just starts talking like he wanted to keep the ant alive. I mean, it was I'm serious. It was crazy.
You said it was crazy.
And after that, like, you know, after all those, you know, kind of weird things, but he, you know, he kind of spit game at that point. Like he was, you know, he was just kind of like talking about the industry, talking about, you know, being an MC, talking about, you know, the longevity, and it was really awesome to see. And then obviously, you know, this was, I want to say this was maybe 2016, 2017. Obviously, years later, he would pass, and you know, I remember hearing about that in the news, and you know, I had already loved his music, and he already had a special place in my heart before I worked with him. But then, you know, after, and then of course, both those records that we did together, both went, you know, Billboard, and then one of them went on to go gold, and that's one of the plaques that I have. But you know, and that was like right around the time he passed. Of course, you know how people are. They're like, oh, now that you're gone, I want to listen to your music. And and he was, I mean, he was massive, and he was real, and like
big time.
When he would spit, like it was real.
Yeah.
Like he ain't like one of these guys today that's like reading the shit on the phone. I mean, it's just like, it's just
that
here.
Dude was real, bro.
Yeah. You know, and that's, you know, guys like him, guys like Busy Bone was another guy I worked with, and like, when I worked with Busy Bone, it was like I was back in the 7/8 endorphino. It was like all of that. Like I was like right back into those records.
Yeah.
The Bone and Biggie and
yeah.
song with Tupac and he was super cool too. And those were just a pleasure for me. It's
Right,
just like
right.
I was so excited to be able to work with the legends, the hip hop legends that I grew up listening to.
Good. Man, that was a fun ride right there.
Mhm.
And I have to ask you a question that I ask everybody, and I feel like I came to you because your studio, it fit all my needs. But as far as success is concerned, how would you define success?
I knew you were going to ask this because
Yeah.
you ask it on every one. I should have been prepared, but I'm not really. I think success is, for me, it's doing what you love. It's doing what you love every single day. And, I wake up every day and I get to do my art. I get to do what I love. I get to help people achieve their dreams, and I get to achieve my dreams at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely unrehearsed, I promise you, but like that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
And to me that's success. It's not the names, that I've worked with, and people always, music business, I say this all the time, it's a facade. People for years would ask me like, who have you worked with? And at the time I would always dodge the question and be like, I've done so many great records, but you haven't heard any of these people, and then it wasn't till like I started getting national credits and writing for TV and film and doing these things where people started to take me serious and started to be like, oh wow, he's wrote for this and he's worked with this guy, but for me it was just about, doing this every day and waking up and kind of living the dream job. And obviously any job, has its, ups and downs.
Yeah.
But I am grateful that God blessed me with this, with this talent and with this kind of knack to help people,
Yep.
to help people, express their art.
Yep.
So that's how I would define it.
That's what's up, man. Well, as usual, I end the show with a question that you ain't ready for.
Are we on an island and we only get one song, or what? What are we?
Well, I mean,
Are you gonna switch it up?
I'm gonna keep it to music.
Okay.
Music. And I'm gonna make it easy for you. But if you could write a soundtrack for anybody in history, and you're producing the soundtrack for their life,
Ooh.
who would you want to write a soundtrack for?
Maybe Bruce Springsteen. I don't know.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm a huge Bruce fan.
Okay.
Which is weird because
I've heard so many good things about Bruce Springsteen. Like,
yeah, there's a lot. Like
I heard he's a dope dude. Like,
no,
I want to meet him.
no, I do too. I've seen him in concert like 13 times.
Yeah.
Kind of a fanboy, but yeah, Bruce would be one just because I think.
So you never met him?
I've never met him. No,
Okay.
I've got close. I've actually worked with his saxophone player, which is his original saxophone player was Clarence Clemens, and
Who
then he
passed away, right?
He passed away in
Yep.
2011.
Yep.
But his nephew Jake Clemens, I had him actually come to my. He was doing this concert series called In Your Home,
Yep.
and he came to my, my parents' house and
Wow.
played a gig, and I got to play with him.
Damn.
And I played keys, he did saxophone, and
That's big.
it was awesome. But he would be one. I think that would be really cool, and it would be something that would like challenge me musically.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot of like hip hop guys and stuff that I could say that too.
Yep.
But I think the great thing about especially writing music for like a visual thing is really you can really dictate how it moves.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I love about writing for TV and film is that sometimes I'm given stuff that's like they have nothing behind it. It's just dialogue, or sometimes it's nothing, and
Yeah.
it's just this visual picture, and then I design the palette.
Yep.
I design the movement, and those are things that really I feel like inspire people to watch it and things like that. So, but yeah, Bruce would be my answer.
That's what's up, man. What do you guys have going on now at the round table? Like, what artists are you trying to promote right now? What's the big name right now?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. So, this year, we're only a little over a year old. We've got to do so many great things. To say that we were blessed in our first year, and is an understatement. We've, just to recap our first year, we've had, a gold record that's almost, going platinum with a guy that came into town. We've done, video games with Sega. We've done with voiceovers. We've done, I've done a few different audio post things and worked with dialogue replacement on a few different movies. We've done tons of records. We've done tons of podcasts.
What was the first podcast you ever did here?
It was the D Money. It was the very first.
That's what's up. That's
yes,
what's up.
And now J.O.'s kind of running with this. He's we got a lot of podcasts that we're running, and you guys were definitely the first. You kind of proved the concept here. It was the very first one. But going back to the question, I'm working on a lot of records that I started them all at once, which wasn't a great idea, but they all kind of came to me at once.
Yeah.
And so a lot of records that I'm very excited about. There's one group that I've been co-producing with them with one of our freelance guys, John Suki, and it's a group called I Love You I Know.
Yep.
And their single Fallout just came out last week.
Fallout, download it.
Yeah, so that was came out September 30th. The next single comes out I think we're going to do October 29th.
Okay.
And then the release of their EP is going to come out November 19th, and we're actually going to have a big release party here at Roundtable November 20th.
Okay.
So if this comes out before,
am I invited?
You are totally invited.
Okay.
You totally should come because
Okay.
it's going to be awesome.
Okay.
We got a lot of cool things planned for that night. We're gonna have we're gonna have a bar.
Oh,
We're gonna have beer.
I like bars.
We're gonna have food.
I like food.
We're gonna have a good DJ.
Yep.
Hopefully Rambo will help me with that. But
I know
yeah.
DJs.
I know you know DJs
Yeah, I
too.
know.
Yeah. So we need that, but that's gonna be a great night. And then we have another artist that we've been working with, a guy named Avery Ogden.
Yep.
Like 19-year-old kid, extremely talented. I mean, talk about like developing talent. Like this kid came to our open house, and another kid that came was like, you gotta hear his stuff.
Okay.
And of course,
Yep.
everybody that day is like pulling me everywhere, and they're like, no, you have to hear it. And they play it for me, and I'm like, that's you? And like, and you who
Hip hop?
No, like singer songwriter, like pop folk,
Yeah.
just like amazing vocal
Oh,
and so talented.
I gotta
And-
hear some.
Oh
of that.
yeah, no, it's great, but kind of like he probably wouldn't like this analogy or just like comparison, I guess, but like to me, kind of like Harry Styles,
Okay.
kind of. But some of the music has a little bit like John Mayer type licks, but it's like
Okay.
it's really pop. It's really folk.
Yep.
But anyway, he's super talented, and his first single
From Indy.
it's from Indy. And he's 19 years old. He makes all this stuff in his bedroom, and like he'll
Wow.
bring it here, and I'm just like, dude, you're making that shit in your bedroom? Like
yeah.
I'm talking like full on production,
Wow.
guitar, and he's like taking pieces of paper and like ripping them, and he's like, yeah, that's my glass, and I'm like doing this, and he's like, that's my hi-hat, or that's my like, I'm like, dude, it's crazy. So seriously, and so he brought it to us, and obviously we did our kind of production thing to polish it up.
Yep.
But his first single, I don't know when it's coming out, but I do think it's going to come out in October, and I think this will probably be coming out later. But first single is called Paper House,
Okay.
and this kid is he's a sleeper.
Okay.
So I'm real excited about his stuff.
I can't wait to hear it
Um,
and meet him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to do a lot of things that are challenging me musically. I've done tons of hip hop stuff. I've done tons of like country hip hop stuff. I've done so many things in like those genres, and then now like I'm doing, the I Love You I Know project is like an alternative pop. It's like it's like punk rock, but it's still got like hip hop like roots. You know, we got like 808 and a lot of like programmed drums.
Yep.
And then Avery's record is like, you know, a lot of organic stuff with a little bit of pop elements and things like that. So I'm really excited about that. And then lastly, like where we're moving forward with Roundtable is obviously our education program is huge.
Yep.
And we, you know, we continue to, you know, develop kind of the next generation of, you know, audio engineers and music producers. But we're also moving into our, you know, kind of our publishing division of Roundtable and music licensing.
Yep.
And so we're working with, you know, with some companies to do some big like licensing deals with like, I have a huge catalog, and now is going to be a great time to get all of the talented writers in indie and kind of beyond to be a part of like writing for TV and film.
Yeah.
Because I have those opportunities.
That's an avenue right there.
I don't have the time to write by myself.
Yeah.
I need a team of writers.
Yeah.
And so we're launching that. And then we also have been wanting to develop our own plugin, which if you know anything about audio, that's what we use within the software. And, you know, we've been talking about that and working with tech to develop our own plugin and things like that. So those are, you know, kind of our next steps of what we want this business to be.
Yep.
Like I said, the foundation is collaboration, you know? So yeah.
That's what's up, man. So with all that said, how can people get in touch with the Roundtable if they want to produce here? They want to record here. They want to get in touch with you about writing, all that stuff. Like
so we're on all the socials at Roundtable Recording. Our website is thertrc.com. My personal handle is at Kold Kut. That's with K's, KOLDKUT.
Yep.
But that's how you can get a hold of us. You know, obviously you can also just Google Roundtable or you know, Google Recording Studios Indianapolis. You'll see us.
Yeah.
But we would love to talk to you. We'd love to, you know, help you achieve your dreams.
Right. Well, you've helped me achieve my dreams,
Right.
and I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Like you're family to me, and no matter where I go, I started at the Roundtable. You know, and
hopefully you don't go anywhere.
I appreciate you guys. My dream is to have my own thing too.
Yeah.
But you guys have accommodated me 100%. I love you guys. You and Tim have taken care of me 100%, and it's only going to get better. We're gonna do a lot of things together, and you guys created me, and I'm cool with that. I love it.
No, I appreciate, you know, you trusting us with doing this for you and kind of help. You know, we kind of grew together in this.
Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, now it's season 3. You know, we've worked out the kinks. We've worked out, you know, the format, and now it's just, you know, the sky's the limit on, you know, all the different guests you can have, and you know, your success is, you know, is our success. We feel like, you know, having you here has been great, and you know, we love having you here. So
yeah, thanks, Cut, man. Like I appreciate you. I'm gonna try to get Tim on here too.
Oh, you should.
I'm gonna get.
It'll be a whole different conversation.
It'll be a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I want to get Tim on here. I want to appreciate everyone for listening. Please always follow dmoney.com. Get your merch. Go to the Roundtable. What's your website? It's
thertrc.com. We have merch on there too.
You got merch on there too? They got hats. I got T-shirts from them. I got hats from them. Dope. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Welcome. Season 3 is popping for real.
Cheers. Later, brother.
Yes, sir.